Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Do you know what we should do on Friday?
Tell me.
Libations.
Cheers.
To you, sir.
To you, sir.
Oh. Good choice.
You like it?
I do.
I like it.
British people are known to enjoy alcoholic beverages. It's a stereotype that we have.
That you live up to.
From time to time.
I don't know what group does it though.
We like to have fun. I like to have fun.
The Swedes, what are they known for? Vice-wise. Besides dark family histories.
The Swedes, they leave their babies in prams outside restaurants in the cold to help them sleep and to build up their immunity. Have you seen pictures and videos of this?
No.
It's a thing. There's photos of like babies in strollers that they just leave outside. It's a thing.
Yeah, dark family histories for sure. Jeez. Holy moly. So I like, having this conversation, and I like having it I like that I can have it with anybody. I like that everybody has their version of this. But I'm particularly fond and fascinated when I'm having it with somebody who has a name. You know what I mean? Like if I'm walking around or talking to different folks in, specifically like downtown, Charles David is a name.
You're too kind.
It's true. It's true. But the question becomes like, okay, but who's Charles to Charles? And obviously that's a lot of different things depending on, what you're doing and how you're feeling in a moment. But, it's like now you're at this big old age, right? Where you've like done things, you've made contributions that have benefited other people's lives. You're a storyteller, so people have got to see themselves through your eye, through your lens, so to speak. But long, long before any of this, Charles was still Charles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like Charles of Newark.
In charge of nothing.
Charles in charge of nothing. It's funny because I thought about like starting to name these episodes. This is definitely going to be named Charles in charge of nothing.
I'll take it.
Right. But yeah, it's like Charles, of Newark by way of Houston, by way of
UK things, yeah.
World travel man, very cultured man.
Oh, saying all these nice things.
I mean, at least that's what it looks like from the outside.
I'm glad it's being received in that way.
Yeah. But like you as a adolescent, who was that kid?
Oh, terrible. Where would you like me to go with that? I can go in so many different directions.
Well, let's start in the household.
Yeah.
Like, what was your identity at home? What was Charles known for? Did you do your little dance for everybody at the family reunion? And is that what like?
So the funny thing is actually, I'm getting to relive this right now in real time.
Okay.
My folks are a little bit older. They're kind of like organizing house kind of things, and they've come across all of the family videos from all of childhood, right? So I've got currently a nice like mixture of stuff from 1 day old through to like maybe I think 15, 16. And I've got like the family vacations, the musical instruments, the things all on video, like in, I don't know if it's technicolor sound, but like in sound, with color, all of the things from 1 day old all the way through. And I guess that's one of the interesting things to have. Now I'm appreciating that as an adult, but yet clearly those influences have rubbed off on me because of what I do and some of the things I like to do and I'm involved in.
Yep.
And it's kind of funny how that wasn't intentional, but it's just kind of worked out that way that now I'm the person documenting, taking the photos, doing the videos. So to tell you more about how I was, the great thing is very similar.
Okay.
Happy-go-lucky, always smiling.
Sweet.
Hopefully, a lot of that kind of positivity, which I believe that's just me. People have said in a certain situation during the pandemic, I was known to a group of people as the happy virus because I was the happy person that infected their like household, right? So,
That's gorgeous.
and I believe that kind of general gist. Now, obviously, you grow, you age, you do different things, but fundamentally, that core piece, I believe, is I hope part of who I am and what people know me for is that kind of positive, uplifting.
Yep.
That's very much me, and so that's what I was like all the way back then, and I have videos to prove it.
Yeah, dope. It's funny because like as a child, I didn't have very many. I have very, very few childhood photos. Very few, right? Like I could count them on one hand.
I'd love to see them sometime.
Sure. I got a couple of them, and then the others, I don't even know where they are. But it definitely impacted like my leaning into documentation and like capturing photos and videos of life and whatnot, because I found myself missing from the family like photo album a lot. You know what I mean? And also, when I was younger, my brother and I looked the most alike when we're both younger. We're 6 years apart. But like oftentimes I would look at a baby picture and think it was me, and it's like, nope, that's your brother. And it happened over and over again.
Empathize.
You know, right?
Yeah.
So that I'm sure that definitely has a part to play in why I'm so enamored and insistent on like documentation and not just of moments, but life and lifestyle. Yep. And we're just hanging out at the park, or we're just and it's interesting to be in this day and age where it's content, and there's a language for it and a use case for it and all of that. But outside of any of that, it's like, nah, I just don't want to like look back and not have any record of what I perceive as a good life. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think I had a good life. I think I have a good life. Also, to your point, it's like I realized that I took for granted the good childhood that I had, that I got to grow up happy-go-lucky and, laughing and smiling and dancing and playing and all of that. And that's my memory of childhood.
You still do all of that in adulthood
For sure.
too. I've seen it many times.
Absolutely. But I realized that everybody didn't have those childhoods. Like everybody wasn't a happy kid or didn't stay a happy kid, you know what I mean, for one reason or another. And so I'm really fortunate. I find myself fortunate to have those type of memories, with or without the video footage. I do have those memories of like positive, pleasant, happy, joyful childhood. So as you were growing into like your teenage years and coming of age and whatnot, was there any aspect of your personality or your skills or talents that started to shine through?
I think at that point it's interesting because the social kind of cultural dynamics are a little different, like growing up in the UK. So while here, for example, like I think there's a lot more emphasis on like cliques of like jocks or nerds or certain things. Okay. It's a lot more defined. Whereas I think for us, it wasn't like that. It's like, sure, you play a bunch of sports, you do this, that, and the other, but you're not like this kind of person.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I definitely was more a sporting kid. I played a bunch of different sports to a fairly high level.
Yeah.
And that's not the things that I'm known for today.
Right.
But I think the starting of some of those things was definitely taking shape, and that would be around music for sure.
Okay.
So again, to kind of like time the era, I have an older brother, 18 months older, so just under 2 years.
Okay.
My only sibling, and this is the LimeWire, the music downloading era, the iPod era. And so this was like the competition to who could have the most music on which device and all that kind of stuff. And I've got an older brother, right, who is helping hey, I'll give you all of this music and you can start going. And he was very meticulous in, like, he would get every song from an album because he would have to have the whole thing, not just a song. It would be like here with the album art and the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm not that meticulous like that, but it was great to receive that and just to have this access to all different kinds of music. Again, at that time, there was a lot of like DJ Red's Southern like hip hop mixtapes and all kinds of different stuff because that was the music at the time that was like really popular.
Right.
But there was all this emphasis on club music and different kinds of club music, and we have all kinds of different stuff over there. And that was really starting to be something that I was interested in. And I would, be doing homework, with my big like can headphones of some description, music cranked all the way while I'm writing some school assignment, something or other. And that definitely has crossed over into today. And yeah.
So at what age did you move to the US?
So I was 22.
Okay.
So the shortest version I can give is born and raised Manchester, UK. My father is English. My mother is Dutch. So I don't sound like I'm from Manchester. If you watch some TV shows, I don't sound like I'm from there. Went to university in Manchester, the University of Manchester. And once I graduated, I was being a responsible young adult, moved back in with parents. I'm saving up to, go and find my path. And the company I was working for straight out of school said, who can move to the US and how quickly can someone move to the US? So I'm like, yep, I'll do it.
Right.
Like, so that was on a Wednesday. I said, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I interview on the Thursday. The next day on the Friday, they're like, you're the guy. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I got on a plane. I didn't have any bills. I didn't have any obligations. I'm not tied into a lease. Like I'm completely independent. So 22 years old. It started out as a business trip. So was in Houston, Texas for 88 days to satisfy the visa, like the visitor visa piece. Then it was do you like it here? Do you want to stay here? Do you want to have the work visa? I'm like, yeah. And then it was just like paperwork and bits and pieces, and then basically been here ever since. So from 22, independently with career, with business stuff, that was how I got here.
Now, Dig, I want to back up a little bit because I know that, Americans, like everybody everywhere, generalizes the other place. So like we think all of Japan is like Tokyo, and we think all of the UK is London.
Okay. Yep.
And so you grew up in Manchester.
Yep.
What is Manchester that isn't in London, and vice versa?
It has all the things. So Manchester is the second city. Okay. So London is like number one, right? Yeah. But Manchester it has all of the things, maybe on a smaller scale. So for context, I don't know the exact population of London, but Manchester is about 1 million people. Okay. Has the largest student population of any city in Europe. Okay. There's like 100,000 undergraduate students across multiple universities. Okay. So it's a very like student heavy place. Yeah. It has a very strong music history background for nightlife and arts and creative pieces. A lot of famous bands, musicians, groups have come from Manchester. Okay.
Who do I know that came from Manchester?
Oasis, the Stone Roses. Okay. There's like a whole bunch of stuff. So the little bit of the history, and this is probably going to tie in a little bit later on. Yeah. In the 80s, so this is before my coming of age time, but Manchester was known as Madchester. Okay. And it was known as the nightlife capital of the world.
Oh, wow.
Influenced by house music from the US, and then with a twist. And then we had all these kind of famous nightclubs where we had Madonna, I think, played one of her first ever shows there. Like all these kind of bits and pieces. There's a lot of history. So just other pieces that are like context are helpful. It rains as much as Seattle. So like 290, 300 plus days a year it's raining, which is not great. Yeah. But I think misery breeds creative endeavors because people are like, I have nothing else to do. It's miserable. So I'm going to go and create and do stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So does that kind of paint a picture? It's 2 hours and 7 minutes on a train from London to Manchester.
Okay.
Or if you're driving, 3 hours and change. Something like that. So, but yeah, it has all of the things. It has very multicultural, very diverse, all of the things. It's just not London.
Right. Okay. So, okay, you're in Houston at 22.
Mm-hmm.
What is the company that you're working for? What do they do?
So I'm like a HR recruiting person. That's like the background. So I started out, this is all very corporate, doing recruiting for this external company for oil and gas companies that were doing multi-billion-dollar projects that were to be going in West Africa, but were being run from Houston. Okay. But like major, like Fortune 500 type stuff.
And at this time, as far as your creativity is concerned, is it still like music for the most part? Or?
So yeah, very much so. So I was DJing all through college in Manchester and then other cities. And then when I moved out, I got my decks shipped over. So I had all my equipment, and that would be in, the apartment to begin with. And then obviously I made the connections with the people down there, and then started playing at parties and different things in Houston. So yeah, music has always... That's been the oldest and longest one, which people know me the least for here.
Got you.
But that's what I've done for 15 plus years versus camera video. All this stuff is like 4 or 5, like really, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so you get to Newark at some point.
I do.
And what's your first impression when you touched down in Newark?
So I had kind of like a soft intro, but a hard landing, but then it all changed. Okay. So I'll explain. So why Newark? So I was, through the pandemic, I was living out in the Jersey burbs, out in Watchung, like kind of South Plainfield, really nice area, with my partner at the time. But then I had a work opportunity to join an interesting company that was based out of Newark. So it was an indoor farming company growing salad basically inside, just here down the way. But their corporate office was the 3rd floor of Robert Treat Hotel. Right. So bit of history, I believe that space used to be the TV station. The physical space, it used to be there. So when we came in the office, it had an on-air sign in the front. So there's a bit of I don't know exactly what the station was or some of the details. I can't remember the things, but so that's where the work was. But it was through the pandemic, so it wasn't there very often. Yeah. But so I was kind of coming here. We'd park in military parking garage, and that was so I was kind of here. But then through some bits and pieces, I was like, okay, I'm gonna Brexit the situation in Watchung, and then I'm like, well, I work here, so where should I live? I don't know many people around here, I don't know any people really at this point in this area. Yeah. So where should I go? I should live close to work. Yeah. So I look online. I see an apartment on Broad Market, middle of the block. Yep. Looks really nice. Looks like a good price. So I'm like, let's go. Had I explored that area? No. Right. But pulled the trigger, moved in. Day one, I'm like, let me go and just get some stuff from a local corner store. And at that point, that 7-Eleven was still open. Yeah. And everything was locked. Everything. And I'm like, okay. Okay. Yeah. This is different a little bit. Yeah. So for the first couple of days, I'm like, okay, we're figuring this out. Right. We'll kind of see. But then day 3, things improved significantly. Okay. And I think I've told you this story, but I'm happy to share this story with you again. So day 3 in Newark, I don't know anyone here. Okay. I'm still unboxing all of my stuff in my apartment, like getting stuff situated. Come home from work, doing the things, and there's music playing. And there's music playing outside, and I'm like, what? Yeah. What's going on? Yeah. So I can kind of see like out the way. So I'm on the backside looking at Prudential Center and Edison Place.
Yep.
That's like my view. And there's people out there, and there's house music playing.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so I think
and it's not just like a loud car or.
Oh no. It's like you know the difference, right? Like there's a sound system going. Your windows are shaking.
Right.
It's like it's music's playing. So I'm like, well, it's a Friday night. I have nothing else to do.
Right.
I don't know anyone.
Yeah.
Let's make a beverage,
right.
and let's see what's going on.
Yep.
And this was also, again, tail end of the pandemic. This is like July 2022. So, and I'd been like out in the burbs and different things. So I haven't been like outside in 2 years.
Right.
Like that, because it hasn't been an option.
Yep.
So I go outside, and it's a whole thing. So that summer there was a series of block parties on Edison Place, all house music, and that first one was Barbara Tucker. She sings. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sing it. That's the first one. But the track's like Deep Down Inside. It's like super popular, and I'm like kind of freaking out,
right?
Because for a few different reasons.
Okay.
A, I'm like, what is this that's right outside my house? Number one. Number two, this is free. Number three, there is 6-year-olds and 66-year-olds cutting shapes on this linoleum rolled out dance floor out on the street. Some people have got their like shiny shoes and shorts and still the face masks dancing. I'm just like, there's a lot happening here. Then Barbara Tucker comes out and starts singing, and I'm just like, and then the sun's setting and all this stuff's happening, and I'm like, this is crazy for the added reason, right? So, you know, I'm a DJ. I've been at clubs and parties and things all this time. That same experience in the UK, you would pay $100 at least to some like club, and people would be like, we're going to the club where it's a whole thing, right? And this is just the neighborhood thing that's just happening on a Friday night for the community. And I'm like, that. So like I said, I had a hard start, but a soft landing. It's like, I'm like, ooh, what's going on? And then that, I'm like, okay, I think we're in a good place. I like this. And that was, and the funniest thing was, so week one was that. Everyone's like, who is this guy? Because I want to say I'm one of one, right? And no one kind of pays me much attention. They're kind of like,
okay.
Next week rolls around. People are like, oh, okay, like, you know, like, okay, we see you. Week 3, what's good, my guy? What's going on? Like, good to see you. We've seen this guy out here, right? And the great thing is, like, you know, for all the stuff that we've been together, right? Some of those same people are there, but that's how I got involved. That was from day 3 to, you know, where we are today. And that's how it started.
I think I talk about this sometimes. You know, I grew up in East Orange, and East Orange is a very special place. But I talk about this often, like nowadays. You know, things happen very casually here, and some things are quite ubiquitous here that just the next town over you'll never come across it. Like you'll go to Harrison, will never have that experience, you know what I mean, like in the course of a year. Not to say never for the future, but point being, like,
we can hope.
Like I'm happy for everybody to have this joy, but there are things that are just really common here, and not just, you know, things with big production, but
I think the beauty of it is it's not big production in most cases.
Right. It's just people decided independently, we're gonna go to this location. We're gonna bring the bits. We're gonna bring the toys and the things. You know, we're gonna make sure that. And there's also like a lot of hospitality. That's the thing that Newark, depending on who you talk to, Newark is very well known for. It's hospitality. Like you said, like week 1 is like, well, I don't know you. I just don't know you. You know, by week 3, it's like, oh, you don't know Charles? Charles, this is the, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that's really fast, because like they still don't know you. Just
right.
this event at this place, it's not like they bumped into you at church also.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
But like, Newark is a very hospitable place. There's an awful lot of engagement that goes on, and there's an awful lot of like mutual caretaking that goes on, like potluck culture.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's so rare, like in the larger scheme and you know, wider views. Like this is not happening over here. It's not happening over there. It's not happening over there. This is just happening here, and it's happening commonly here.
I would challenge it a little bit. I would say, from my lived experience, which is not ubiquitous for everyone, right?
Yep.
Because I am not from any of these, I'm not from the side of this Atlantic, right? I feel like I've received a lot of additional kind of care in that way that maybe other folks wouldn't have. So for example, you know, things like Thanksgiving is a perfect example, right? That's a big American holiday.
Yeah.
You know, on face value, that means nothing to me.
Right.
But every year I get invited to half a dozen things because they go, oh, you're not from here. You know, we care about this. You know, you seem like a nice person. So like we want to open things up. So, but maybe I attract that. I don't know, but maybe I've been lucky. Maybe it's the Southern hospitality from being in Texas. That's also a thing.
I think it's a combination of all. Because Newark is a migrant and immigrant city.
Yep.
So like everybody here, not everybody here, a lot of people here aren't from here. And a lot of people here are constantly meeting people who aren't from here. So like playing host is a very common thing.
I'll frame it in a different way. I agree with what you're saying. I think the people that live here, that are good people, that care about living here and want to be part of the community, they want other people to have a good experience. So they go out of their way to be the host, to be that caretaker, whatever you want to kind of describe it as. And I think that's the piece where, you know, if you want to be here, you want to be a part of it, people go bend over backwards to say, we love that, and we will give you everything we can because we all want this, right? That's the way I would frame it.
Yeah, I dig it. To that point, what do you miss about the UK in terms of like social norms and that's not as common here? And then what also do you love about here that wasn't common there?
I've got a couple of strange, odd ones, right? But this is very contextual to Manchester, yes, UK less so, but Manchester a lot. So weather sucks, right? So as a result of that, when the weather does not suck for maybe that short window, which in some years it could be as bad as you get 1 week of like over here, like 85-degree plus weather. You maybe have 1 week, 2 weeks is nice, 3 weeks is like we had a good year, which is crazy to say, but truthfully, that's how it can be. So there's a certain, like, I can't really describe it or put it truly into words, but imagine you've had 6 months of miserable weather, and it's just been horrible. And then all of a sudden you get that one day when the sun comes out and it's warm enough to then go outside, and people go nuts. It's like, let's go to the pub, let's go drinking, let's go to the park, let's do like the portable barbecue nonsense things. Everyone's like, we have to make use of this. Like, we have to do it. And it's difficult to kind of put that into words, that kind of feeling, because the whole country or wherever you're at just goes bananas, because it's like this fleeting moment that you have to maximize. And the great thing about here is by and large, you have 4 seasons. You get a great summer. You have a decent time. So there's not a need to. You have to make use of it. It's like, you know, if we go out to the park this day, great. If we don't, there's another day. No worries. And so that's like a very specific, weird thing, but hopefully makes sense because of the kind of background. Other things, what do I miss? What do I miss? That's a good question. I think we've talked about this, but I'll say it again. I believe there should be, and there's a need for more nightlife here.
For sure.
I think it's making progress.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's new things opening all the time, which is good. I'm very happy to see that. But the thing that disappoints me is that Newark is a summertime city.
Mm-hmm.
Summertime?
Yeah.
Right. Every few days, you go outside, there's some music, there's something happening, fantastic, amazing. And you can bounce from spot to spot. And then on some days you've got too many events and you're like, I can't even go to all of them, right? Why can't we have some of that more year round, right? So, and that's the bit that I miss because, in the UK, you've got lots of great smaller, mid-sized clubs, all kinds of stuff that you can go out to, 365 days of the year. And I'm just looking to have a little more of that consistency, I think is really going to help attract people, make people happier, like find more fulfillment, create more opportunities. I think all of those things would be helpful. And I miss those kind of options. We shouldn't have to go to other cities or other places to have that. We have the physical infrastructure. We just need it to be activated in that way.
Yeah, I agree completely. Newark is like such a interesting place in that like there is.
Thank you, Cancer.
You're welcome. There is the infrastructure and all the things are here, and you wonder why it hasn't been capitalized on already, or like to its capacity. But that's also the reason why we still have opportunity to do the things that we do. Because like it hasn't been done already. It's not oversaturated. It's like, I get the New York Times exists because that news media market wasn't already, saturated or filled in or what have you.
Well, Star Ledger's gone now as well, right?
Star Ledger's gone.
Yeah.
Right? The paper doesn't print anymore, so they don't have an office here anymore. Elevate, Welcome, Reimagine can be here because like there's room for it. You know what I mean? So like thankfully for those of us who are activators, you know what I mean, who are like interested and willing to just make the thing happen that doesn't happen or create where there's room, we have the room, because I don't know what I would be doing necessarily otherwise. Like what I do is so very much in line with what I want to be doing as an individual. Like I do want to be engaged in this way. And I love storytelling and I love the mix of cultures and what's going on in the business world and education world and science and technology and culture and lifestyle and food and beverage. I'm into all of that stuff. So like
you and me both.
The New York Times, it doesn't even feel like work to me.
Cheers to that.
Cheers, right? To the work that doesn't feel like it. And the same for you. It's like Elevate, Welcome, Reimagine, this lives in the wheelhouse of the kind of person that you are. You know what I mean? And what you would like to be doing or most interested in doing creatively can be done through EWR.
Well, and the thing is, and I know it's the same for you as well. Well, I don't want to speak for you, but for me, most of the things that I've done are not paid projects. Like, sure, there are the paid projects that come as a result of a lot of these things.
Right.
But a lot of this is because I want to do it, because I want to shine a light on something, because I care, or I want it to be shown or seen or documented.
Yeah, I'm getting my way out of it. Like, I want to do this, whatever the thing is. And I'm also, it's not lost on me or you that there is a great value in owning the IP of what you create.
Yep.
And, in America especially, intellectual property is something that it's very recently being like discussed and talked about as far as artists and creatives are concerned. You know what I mean? Like hip hop, 40 years of hip hop before people started to talk about like owning their masters and what that actually means. You know what I mean? And what they can do with it in the future. And it's like, this is exactly what was keeping the industry afloat all along, was the IP of these artists and creatives. It's like, it's not enough to just sing the song. You know what I mean? For your children, your grandchildren, And even for yourself individually, it's like, it's not just enough to say I made that.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's something in what you made that can absolutely change your life,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And now, I think about like the stuff that I do, stuff that you do, especially like, in the visual art space with photography and videography and like shit like that. It's like people get to see themselves and otherwise wouldn't, in the way that they get to see themselves when the Elevate Welcome Reimagine video plays or the New York Times, photo catalog runs through, and it's like, oh yeah, I was at that event.
But I think it's deeper than that, because I mean, I don't know if we've even talked about this, but you must have you seen The Summer of Soul? Yeah. So I mean, that's something that like is really, that kind of concept really inspires me, because there's so many of these musical, cultural moments that happen where, there can be a lot of movement or momentum behind XYZ, but it's not documented, right? And so everyone experiences it, and that's amazing, but then it falls by the wayside and can be forgotten just through time, right? And so to be able to, we're kind of curators of history in that way, right? Because if we create something that continues to exist beyond ourselves, like that's a powerful tool, and we get to kind of craft what do we want to show, and that's why I think it matters so much.
And you get to like witness and so you get to witness a lot of magical moments, right? Just because you decided to be a de facto observer by way of this camera. It's like, I'm here to capture and observe, you know what I mean? And then there is the additional sweetness of it's documented. Like I can play it back, or like I have it from an angle that most of the people didn't see it from.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like little things like that are just such additional treats.
But the bit about that is it's all built upon trust, right? Like you can't get that angle without being trusted by the people that are producing the event, whatever. That we know you, cool, you can do that, or we've seen this guy before, we'll let him, take the photos of the videos of people in the club or the dance floor or whatever it is, right? And so we've built that trust. You've built that trust. I've built that trust to do that. And that's like the other piece of, I don't think you could get other people that are better photographers and videographers than both of us, right? Times 10. But if they don't know the people, they're not trusted. They're not going to be able to produce and document in the way I believe that we do it, because they don't have the trust built with the people involved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see it often when it comes to even like taking a photo of someone. Like there's a resistance and a hesitancy to like just posing for a photo. Like there are people who are just happy to have their photo taken wherever they are by whoever. But then there's folks that's like, well, I don't know you, and what are you going to do with the photo? And
so there's an interesting one. One of my favorite photographers, Chris Dolo, he's phrased it. He's got a really good one for this. He says he doesn't ask to take their photo. He's like, may I create a photo of you?
Yeah.
Like subtle framing, right?
Absolutely.
I'm not taking from you.
Absolutely.
I would like to create with your consent.
Yeah. I dig that.
That's an interesting like flip.
Yeah, and he gets,
Fantastic
fantastic photos, like of people.
Shout out to
Chris. Shout out to Chris, truly. Yeah. So, all right, you've got, the person that you are, at least as far as we've talked about, you're going to be a good upstanding citizen and contribute to the society, have a good job that allows you to take care of yourself and all that. And then you have your creative pursuit, you have music, and then you get into visual arts and photography, videography, storytelling that way. Where do you get your sense of excellence from? Like there's one thing to do the thing, and then there's another thing to be like, I won't be happy with this thing if it's not excellent.
I think that's just you. Where does that come from? It comes from within, right? I think I believe most or all, I don't know. I don't want to speak for other creatives, but I know that there's a common thing of you're your own biggest critic, right? silly example. My mom makes quilts, really amazing quilts. Like incredible, kind of like huge, complex. Anyway. And she made me one time, and she's like, "Oh yeah, but I messed up like a stitch here and a stitch there." I'm like, "I literally don't even know what I'm looking at. Like this is incredible, right?" That's quilting, right? I don't know anything about quilting, but most people don't know about the technical aspects of video or photo, right? And it's just like, "Oh, cool photo," right? So you or me are like, "Oh, but like, you know, if it had been a little bit like this or something else," but 90% of people aren't interested. They're just like, "It was a cool photo, it was a cool video," right? And actually, I learned that quite early on because of music. So how do you learn how to DJ? Well, you know, there's a technical piece to it, but then for me anyway, you would record a DJ set, right? And then you listen back to it.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh, like I messed up this little bit here. I messed up that little bit there, right? But that's when you're in the bedroom or like practicing at home.
Yeah.
When you then go and translate that to outside in a club, in a like a real world environment, you realize nobody cares. Right? Like, sure, if you play a terrible song, the crowd, like you get the physical like reaction. There's like, I'm not gonna like dance or whatever, right? But by and large, like they're not interested in like, is it technically perfect? It's just, is it good? And to create this outcome of, is it dancing or am I conveying this message with this photo, with this video, whatever it is? And people aren't so fussed in the technical piece. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do a good job. But it's the way that I kind of justify sometimes, like me, I need to not worry about it so much because other people aren't worrying about it that much. It's just me inside my own head. And I think that's a common problem for creatives.
Because we spend so much time in the vision in our head, you know, of like what my DJ set would be like, or what my photo shoot will be like, or, you know, whatever the creative activity is. There's a conceptualization is such a large part of it. Whereas like, not to speak for accountants, but accountants aren't conceptualizing, you know, the spreadsheet in the same way.
I know some accountants. I'm not going to go.
I mean, I don't want no problems. But like, you know, the idea of like the something from nothing aspect of artists and creatives, where it's like, I'm going to design a mix. I'm going to think of a playlist and a way to mix songs and a way to sequence the list and a way to play with whether it's volume or a way to
tempo,
play with time and like, you know,
genre,
I'm going to do this,
kind of things,
this set from the 80s. I'm going to do this set from this genre, or I'm going to do this set, whatever the thing is. But there's an awful lot of nothing turning into something just because you saw a thing in your head or you heard a thing in your head. And again, it's like most, like, people aren't aware of the nothing. They're only aware of the something that you actually put out. And so whatever they receive, they're not necessarily receiving it as perfect, but they're receiving it as
that's what
the
they're
finished
receiving.
Product. It's that, you know? And if the song is pleasant enough, the mix is pleasant enough, if the timing is pleasant enough, as far as they're concerned, it's perfect. It's just...
Because they don't have any comparison, right? They don't see that you did that 5 times to make that outcome, right? But I think that's the piece around so many people don't necessarily understand the creative process of a lot of things, right? So take a singer, right? We both know a lot of great singers locally, but if you see the recording of a singing of a song or like a particular production, right? Like they may sing that same song 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, like, you know, however many times, and then they're going to take this bit here and this bit there and that bit there, and then that's what makes the perfect version, right? But the released version is the perfect one that you receive, right? But so many people, if they don't have the visibility on that's what sometimes the creative process can look like, you know, they don't appreciate that or understand the value, perhaps. But this is why I think, you know, I'm a big believer in, whether it's the photography, whether it's the photos, whether it's music, whether it's videos, practice. Just yourself independently, for your friend, for it doesn't matter, but like the more that you do it, you're putting in that pre-work to go, okay, like did that work? Did it not work? Experiment. Okay, like I'll try something different.
Yep.
You know, we'll do a different light today, and we
Yeah.
put, you know,
Yeah.
what, like, you know, all you can do is just try and see.
Yep.
And do we like it? Do we not?
Right.
Try it again. Was this better? Or was it not?
Right.
And it's this constant journey and evolution. Sometimes it's better than others, and you just hope you trend in the right direction.
Yeah. Also, there's like there is the muscle memory and the being able to get into flow. Like, you know, it's like you talk about practice, and there is, I think about it like when it comes to basketball. Like, you know, in the UK, it's football.
Thank you for saying football, by the way. I appreciate that.
Well, you know, right? Respectful, right? It is the actual football, right?
It's not hand egg. Like,
but like here, it was basketball.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And, you know, you go to a park, there's a basketball court. It's like a park's not a park without a basketball court here in the 80s.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So everybody's playing basketball. And then some, you know, you get to whatever high school age, and you're like, oh, you could actually play on a team, and you play organized, and you have a coach, and you have all of that. And the idea is like, you don't only play basketball when you're in the game, and you don't only play basketball when you're playing a game or practicing with the team. Like, if you love playing basketball, you still play at the park.
You're out shooting
you
hoops
still
on
play
your own
at your friend's backyard.
Yeah.
And you practice with the team, and you play in the games. And at a certain point, it's not even practice anymore. It's all just basketball. Like, I play basketball.
Yep.
That's what I do. You know what I mean? And it's the same with, you know, creative, or with the arts, so to speak, where it's like, I take photos. I don't just take photos when I'm hired to take photos. I don't just take photos in a studio setting. I don't just take photos with a camera. Like, I'll take photos with my phone.
Oh yeah,
because I take photos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And at a certain point, it's practice in the way. It's more so practice in the way we talk about the martial arts. It is your practice.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You do this thing, and you just constantly do this thing and do this thing, and it's not about the end result. It's not about what you produce as much as, like, it's not about the kick. You know what I mean? It's about, when I am in this practice, am I fully and wholly in it? And am I in flow? And am I paying attention and observant to myself and the others and the environment? And, like, how deeply entrenched in this experience am I? Because that dictates how well I'll perform the kick.
But this is what I like about whether it was sports, what I did at a young age, or, like you say, flow in some of these other creative areas where, you know, in those moments where you're not consciously thinking, you're doing.
Yeah.
And, like, I love that, because, you know, we're all running around doing things all day, every day. But to then just to be doing a thing where there isn't a conscious thought, it's just you're in that kind of state is a beautiful thing. And I appreciate it and enjoy it thoroughly.
Yeah, agreed. Random question for you. What are, like, some of your favorite books?
Oh,
like one or two.
I have not been the most voracious reader in my adult life as much as I would have liked to have been. This is going to be so cliched. Like, some of the like memorable ones, because actually I think this would help so many people in the world, is there's the Dale Carnegie How to Make Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
So ridiculous. Like, some of it's like salesy, like how to make friends kind of thing. But honestly, it's like the little pieces, like, can you remember people's names?
Yeah.
Like name recall, or, you know, actively listening, or different things like that. So I think that's underappreciated, because some people really can't do some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was, like, kind of there. But I would say I'm also, some of the most memorable books that I've read are definitely more on the kind of fantasy, kind of creative end. I mean, I'm like a generational Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. That was like peak.
Right.
That was my childhood for sure. So those are, like, big ones. Unfortunately, I've not read any, like, many fun books as an adult. It's been more like factual bits and pieces business, but not like things that I'm like,
Yeah.
Like I consume an awful lot of material, but not necessarily like in book form. If that helps.
Yeah.
But not really.
No, I dig it. So
I'll add this though.
yeah.
I was the kid that I could not leave the house without reading the newspaper.
Okay.
And to this day, like, can I leave the house without having kind of read the news or like kind of understanding what's going on in the world? I can't go out into the world until I know what's happening in the world. Currently, that's a little painful, and I'm trying to limit that. But I would say, do I pay attention to what's going on? Yes. I think a lot more than the vast majority of people, because I think it's important.
It's such an interesting thing to think about, like the news and the short window, in the grand scheme of time, the short window of time when it was the trend to be informed. Like newspapers are not, newspapers are less than 200 years old. You know what I mean? And at their inception, newspapers were not like authoritarian journal. There wasn't like journalistic integrity for a good while, as far as newspapers were concerned. And then the world got more serious, and so newspapers had more serious stories to tell. Newspapers. I remember I read this book. This is like just before starting the New York Times, or like around that time. It's called The Trust. I don't even remember how I came across the book, but I did. I'm glad I did. The Trust was about the family that owns the New York Times.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So
I'm a New York Times subscriber.
Okay. So the New York Times already existed at the time, right? And at that time, this is like 1800s, late 1800s. At that time, newspapers were largely like scandal rags, right? And then early 1900s, you get World War I, you get the plague, right? You get the Roaring '20s, and then you get the Great Depression. Like, so you get more serious world events going on, right? National events and world events going on. And so newspapers then become more serious journalistic periodicals.
Yep.
But so you take, the 1920s to 2020. It's like you got 100-year span of like when being informed of the news was the trend. And like in between that, you got this time of print where it's like newspapers particularly, and reading the world news of the day.
What's the look, the feel, like,
right?
It's interesting because I've never got behind American newspapers because I don't like how they feel. Like ours has a different feel to it. Which is really weird. It's like thinner or not as. I wish I could. I'll try and bring you one next time.
Yeah. I remember, it's funny because at the same time that you were working in Houston, I was working for a company that was based in London. So like half the staff, if not more than half the staff, were British blokes.
I'm so sorry for you.
And I mean, nobody's perfect. Everybody can't be black. But like, it was like. So I did have some familiarity with, some of the news mediums, even if not the tactile experience with the paper.
But I think I fully appreciate and understand. Like I've been very fortunate in living in different places and experience different countries, different cultures. More than just the UK and the US, right? But I think I place like I don't know how to like place the importance, but understanding how, something that happens over here, while it may not immediately affect me today, there may be some way that, it's this chain of events that this impacts this and this impacts this, and then we end up some other outcome that happens. And, I think it's important to understand why those things happen, and because then that informs of what can you do in the future to mitigate, do better, not make the same mistakes again. I don't know, pick a reason, right? And being informed and following those things helps.
Right.
I believe helps with that. It's also really depressing. That's the current state of affairs.
Yeah. Let me ask you, what's your relationship with? Let's start with ambition. Like, where do you?
What does that even mean?
Well, you can. Here's what I mean by it. In whatever you choose, whatever the path, the work, the whatever, the rate of the incline of like how you're trying to climb up, how you're trying to progress, how you goal set, and how you keep yourself accountable to meet your goals.
Okay.
Like that's very much an inward.
Sure.
Or a work within.
Yep.
Right. How would you describe your work within to that degree? Like why do you get this camera and not just the camera that's serviceable? Why do you get this much kit?
Because I'm extra. No.
But it's like, no, but you actually use it though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For a camera, for where?
Just in general, just the ambition of like, even like, your 9-to-5 work or whatever.
I think I can, thank you kindly, sir.
You're welcome.
I can maybe simplify it because I think I have a common and a relatable goal that I feel like a lot of people would care about, right?
Okay.
I would like to provide, I hope I can afford the same kind of existence that I had as a child for a future family. If I can do even half of that, I would feel very happy and content. And so a lot is, how could I replicate that or put for my own path, how could I achieve something like that? And how can I try and leave the world in a better place than I found it, like while aligning those two things together.
But that's more altruistic. Where's the ambition? Like you want to stand on the mountaintop for whatever reason. Why do you want to?
Everyone likes a little validation, right?
Yeah.
Like what you do is good. What you do has value, has meaning. People care about it. I think I want to do something that matters.
I dig it.
Make a difference, right? I feel like I hope a lot of people feel the same way. And so you just try and live every day to improve on the day past. And I think that, again, the big challenge is there's, you have these like big goals and big kind of things, but you don't make giant leaps. It's incremental. It's like, today I'm going to do more than I did yesterday. The next day I'm going to do more, right? And just, that's a long journey. Like we're still young-ish men. I have more gray hairs in my beard than I would like, but you just take one day at a time.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said for seeing yourself produce excellently. You know what I mean? Even when it's incremental, there is something to, like, you can't unknow how good you can be once you've seen yourself be that good. And it's like, oh, well, I don't want to be Al Bundy and just be saying I was good in high school. You know what I mean? I want to continue to, to impress myself, to contribute in a way that's genuinely valuable to others. Like, I still have the interest to do that, but a large part of that is informed by the fact that I've seen myself do that. So I do feel an accountability and responsibility to sustain that, because I do believe that's a genuine part of who I am. I didn't just.
What about your ambition? I should ask you this question.
Well, yeah,
so you're on the spot.
This is what I'm speaking to now. It's like I've seen myself be great. Even if it's not a leap and bound great, even if it is an incremental great.
I think you're pretty great.
I've seen it. Thank you very much. But like, I don't. I'm fascinated by, well, how great can I be?
But that's a personal self-challenge question, right?
Yeah.
And just, do you want to continue to push yourself?
Yeah.
And that's a day-to-day question, right? Am I going to push myself today to do more than I did yesterday?
Yes. The lived experience of it, though, that I'm sure you can agree to or attest to, is every day I'm not better than yesterday.
No,
So,
no, 100%.
but the idea of like, but I still have that as my...
That's the overarching goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And that's okay. Like, I want to. So again, my corporate is like HR guy, right? And so you want to have more good days than bad days.
Yeah.
And as long as you're striving for that and you keep pushing towards that, it's completely okay, normal, and understandable for those things to not happen, because this is the real world that we live in.
Right.
Stuff happens every day that can derail you and take you in a different direction. But if you have the intent to do that, that's half the battle right there. Because if you don't have that intent and you're like, who cares, whatever, just let it go by the wayside. But if you continue to hold that and try and live up to it, that's half the battle right there.
Yeah. And I think I also do give consideration to the fact that everybody's not taking the charge to be great.
But that's also okay.
Yeah, absolutely. With no judgment to anybody. But the idea is like, well, whatever great is to me, I want it to be a shared experience. Like, I want to be able to experience it with my friends and with my family. And if it takes me setting the table for us to have a gorgeous dinner, then I set the table for an experience that I want to have anyway. I want to have the shared experience. You know what I mean? If it's like...
The shared experience that you and I need to have is I need to cook for you, which not many people have experienced my food.
Dude.
This is the other one, but that's my most personal kind of one, because that's, come
But have
to my
I cooked
home.
for you? Have you eaten?
No.
Oh, so we both owe each other.
We need to do this for each other, which I'll be very excited to do.
Yeah, let's do it. I thought about doing it like with not with this conversation and episode, but like in general, like kind of changing some of the format of the podcast, where like with some of my friends, we do the thing together.
Yeah.
And have a conversation over...
while cooking.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
So yeah, I'll definitely, because I'm gonna need you to do this again. Right? But yeah, we'll definitely do it like that next time.
100%. Because like food is love. Food is a different language and a different form of creativity. And I have the deepest respect for like restaurateurs, business people that run restaurants, cooks, chefs, people that like to eat.
Yep.
And there's a lot of good food here.
Yep.
I also like to cook, and I'm very selective about who I do that for. But when I do it, I hope you will enjoy it.
I'm sure I will. Check this out. Follow-up question to the ambition is, what's your relationship with gratitude?
Again, clarify what you mean with that question.
So for me, gratitude is one of my core principles. All right, like just what I've chosen for myself, radical optimism, joyful discipline, gratitude, like those are my things. So I have a relationship with gratitude because it's in the forefront of my mind.
Okay.
Right. And a lot of my ambition is informed by gratitude of like, I got to see other people be excellent. Your mom with the quilt. It's like, you got to see that. You know what I mean? So like when you go do a thing, even if the thing isn't quilt making, there's a gratitude for like, no, I've seen awesome excellence and I've been on the receiving end of it. So I want other people to experience that, or I want to affect that if and however I can, because I'm so grateful that I got to see my mom sew something from scratch, or I got to see, you know what I mean?
Just sidebar, when she was here last, took her to Halsey Fabrics, and this lady has like, she goes to all these different places about all the fabric.
Yeah.
Halsey Fabric, she was like number one. She was like, she walked in and was like jaw on the floor. She was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Unreal. Just sorry.
That's wild. I love that though.
Genuinely, she was like, this is amazing. I've never seen anything like this.
That's dope.
Gratitude.
Shout out to Halsey Fabrics too. Yeah.
Gratitude. No, I think, but I think it's not like maybe I don't hold it in the same way that you do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, but it's definitely important because there's the gratitude of whether it's you opening up your home to me right now, whether it's the people at on Edison Place that like welcomed me to that, whether it's being at Lincoln Park and be like, yeah, come on the stage, take photos of this, right? Like I have a deep gratitude because that no one has to say yes to that,
right?
Like and so that the people that trust or believe in what I'm trying to do or my integrity or whatever it is, I have gratitude that people are receiving it in that way.
Yeah.
And that allows me to then do what I do. And I hope that's like reciprocal, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it just comes down to like presence. Mm-hmm. Like to be present of like, oh, where I am right now, I'm happy to be.
Yep.
Whether it's like on stage, taking photos, or on a sofa having a conversation. It's like, oh, this is pretty cool. I like this. You know what I mean? And
it is pretty cool. You're a cool guy. You undersell yourself too.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
You are greatness.
When I'm selling myself, I don't. but I think that like I'm interested in seeing and learning and hearing other perspectives and other approaches and styles and points of view. And I'm just so very well aware of my own already. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious about like other people's, like how the machine works.
But this is why I like some of the other things. Like one of my favorite and most interesting things about the Sunday men's meeting.
Yeah.
That is not a space that in where I come from, how I grew up, for me to be in a space like that, having conversations with individuals about all these topics, I never would have imagined that in my wildest dreams.
Okay.
That I would be in a place like that, having conversations, hearing stories about where people came from, why they feel like they do, and then how that relates to like what's going on today, both like, locally and then, maybe a little more nationally. I'm grateful because those kind of places are hard to find. And that for that to be kind of open in that way, that's like a real hidden gem.
For sure.
That I can't wait for that to be back a thing. I hope, are they moving to a new home or is it kind of dies down during the winter?
No. It's moved over to 1180.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Let's go
Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but that's a really interesting one because, again, not to take it in a different direction, like I think so many problems there's nothing wrong with having a different point of view.
Right.
Like that's normal, right?
Yep.
You like a certain color, I like a certain color, whatever. Like it doesn't matter, right? But can we engage in a civil discussion? And understand, well, why do you like the color blue and I'm wearing the color green? Right. Like, why is that, right? Obviously, we're not talking about colors. There's usually more involved conversations than that. But having those spaces where conversations like can happen are super important, and there's not enough of them.
Yeah. There's far more room for understanding than the room that gets created for misunderstanding. Like people make room for misunderstanding, and there's so much room for understanding. And even I often say like there's a difference between conflict and confrontation. We can confront a thing without there being conflict.
Yep.
And oftentimes there is people conflate the two. So it's like if we bring up the thing that we know we disagree on, it would inevitably end in an argument. It's like not necessarily.
No.
Like it.
But also, is an argument necessarily bad?
An argument is not necessarily bad,
right?
But it's also not inevitable.
Sure.
It's like it depends on. In a lot of cases, it depends on, do I see your ideas as your identity? Because they're not one and the same. And do I think that your identity has to be similar to mine in order for us to coexist? Because like growing up in a household, everybody does not have the same point of view. Everybody does not have the same interests. Everybody does not have the same inclinations, like and ideologies. The black sheep is that concept that exists in the family unit, like in the household, in the tightest unit that there is. There's the idea of a black sheep, and that black sheep is just different.
Right.
It's not the black sheep is not necessarily the outcast, and sometimes that gets conflated too. But the black sheep is like, oh well, no, Tehsuan for whatever reason is into, and nobody else in this house is into that.
But most of that's just a lack of understanding in most cases, right? And that's where, taking that opportunity to sit down and like have that conversation and to broaden understanding of the world or a person's belief system or their lived experience that made them think a certain way, right? Like your life was different to my life. So tell me about that. Why did you think that way? And then, okay, like let's talk about it and share and exchange ideas. And I think this is my other hot take. There's nothing wrong with changing your opinion based on new learned experience. Yeah. Like, because you can go, well, because of this is what I think, but then because of new information, okay, like, like that, and that's fine. That's good. That should be encouraged.
Absolutely.
But I'm not sure everyone feels the same way.
Yeah, there was a poet. I can't remember his name now. Fuck. But he had a poem where he talked about how the only proof that you have a mind is in your ability to change it. Like that's how you know you actually have a mind. That's how you know you're not just a programmed computer. Right. You can change your mind. And I think of ideas like money, where it's like you go to a store, you go to a 7-Eleven, you give the cashier your money, and you give them a $20 bill, and they check its authenticity or whatever. There is nothing to take offense at. It's not my dollar. Yeah. Somebody passed it to me. I'm passing it to you. You're more than welcome to check its authenticity if you like. But like that's not a mark against. Am I a counterfeiter? You know what I mean? And it's the same with ideas. Like, I heard most of the ideas that I hold. I've read them. Like, I didn't sit in the silence and come with most of the things that I think of. I actually adopted them or acquired them somewhere. And I hold them for as long as they're valuable to me. And then once they're not, I let them go. Right.
But this is learning. This is growth. This is what you hope happens.
Yeah. But for very many people, the idea is that their ideas and ideologies are their identity. And so that's why people are so resistant to let them go, even if they don't serve them anymore, and so opposed to entertaining ideas that they don't hold. Because if I don't hold it, I don't have room for it. Or if I don't hold it, it's going to erode the ideas that I do hold if I entertain it.
My problem is I'm too curious. I'm too curious for that. I'm just sort of like, well, what's a different idea? Tell me something else. Like, what else is going on?
What's out there? Right? Yeah. And then you think about like ideas, not just ideas. Ideas probably too large and loose a term for it. Take religion. There is the school of thought, whether you hold it or not, where all organized religion came from people who were experimenting with mushrooms. And like nowadays, like you ask most folks who are, a part of any organized religion, want to do some mushrooms? And they'll be like, absolutely not. And it's like, all right, well, give it some time. Because over the course of time, ideas evolve and change and are informed and molded and broken down and built back up. It's not the dogmatic view that people like to hold in the moment.
But this is also, again, I have like my international perspective says that this is like it's not entirely an American problem, but it is a very American thing for identity, like identity politics or ideology politics. And I'm like, but for example, in this country, I would say out of my close friends, mostly I would know which way they voted, right?
Okay.
I could not tell you the same thing for any of my English friends. I have no idea. It's not a conversation. We just don't care. It's just not.
Okay. So it just doesn't come up.
I mean, you can talk about it, but it's just not in the same way where people are like, well, you're this, I'm that.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't, people are more likely to coexist, I think.
Yeah.
It may have changed. I've been gone for a while.
Well, America is the country where the identity is.
But Americans are always searching for the identity because it's such a young in relative terms.
Because that's what America means.
Right.
America means identity because America is the place where everybody landed to create a new identity. It's like we don't even think of the founding fathers as British.
No.
And they fucking were. You know what I mean? But like the idea, like in America, is like everything is even. There's America and there's Americana, and Americana is where we get idea of identity of like the cowboy, and the businessman, and all these things that are like, you know what I mean? These American ideals, where this is what America's built on, and it's because America's so young in the grand scheme, and the story, the origin story of America is like, people still tell the origin story of America. I don't know what the fuck the origin story of England is. I've never heard it.
I mean, but why would you? I'm not going to tell you here now and do a bad job.
But I mean, just in terms of like the timeline, though,
right.
I don't know the origin story of Canada. And it's the
all
same landmass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, I don't know the origin story of any other country. Like, America is the little kid, the little brother in the scheme of these countries and nations and whatnot. You know what I mean? And the origin story of Spain, I don't know. The origin, like, I've never heard of it. And granted, I'm born and raised in America, so that makes sense that I hear about Americas, but social studies didn't include any of that shit.
Yeah.
Whatsoever. Last question for you, and this is kind of going left. What is your relationship with death?
Ooh.
Like, do you consider your own, and what do you think about when you're considering other people's?
Sure. That is a left turn.
Yeah.
So I'll go a couple of different ways. I'm an atheist. I'm not religious in any way, shape, or form. My personal belief is you go from existing to you go to not existing.
Okay.
So I rationalize that because the specifics are not important, but I had like a general anesthesia operation when I was like 11 years old. And you're there 1 minute, and then you are not there 1 minute.
Right.
And then you wake up 5-6 hours later, and it's just, there's no, it's like, have you been watching the TV show Severance?
I haven't been. But...
It's interesting. I'm not going to spoil it. But like, anyway, point is like, you're there and then you're not there.
Right.
And it's just like, so I don't fear death in that way, because I think it's not something to be fearful of, because there's nothing to experience. It's just from one to the other.
Gotcha.
Now, am I very aware of my aging parents that live 3,000 miles away that are getting older all the time? And the difference is, I'm not fortunate enough to be able to see them every week, every month, every 3 months. It might be, these longer increments. So those step changes, right? And it's bigger step changes because it's not on a regular basis, right? So you're like, oh, yeah, no, things are getting older. And it's like a worry, because I've got these fun videos. I've also got videos of my father as a child.
What?
Insane. Yeah. As like probably like a 6, 7, 8-year-old, like playing around on a beach and some stuff. It's insane. Wow. So yeah, like those things they worry me, but also it's not something that I can actively control. I can't influence the outcome
Right.
necessarily, right? So a general philosophy of mine is try not to worry about things that you can't control.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, if, I'm really overweight or I have some health issue and I could do something about it, sure, I should take care of that thing, right? But death as a general topic is not something I put a lot of mind space into because like I can't, I could walk across the street going home and get something could happen, this is life, these things happen, but there's no point in dwelling on that, because if you live your life to the best and you try and do, all the things that you can on a day-to-day basis, look, like you're just doing the best you can. If things happen, things happen, but not something that takes up mind space. Why did you ask me that question?
It's just a question that I'm curious about. I think I'm generally interested in the esoteric, and I'm interested in other people's considerations about the things that I think about.
You think about death?
Yeah, I'm fascinated by death.
Really?
Yeah.
In what way?
I'm fascinated in what exactly is it, right? Because there are beliefs around death, and some people hold their belief to be fact, and some people hold their belief to just be a belief, but nobody has truly died and come back. Like you can...
Some people will debate you on that.
Yeah, you can be dead for a few minutes, few hours. Can't be dead for a week and come back. Can't be dead for a year and come back. Nobody has told the death experience. Even folks who have talked about, at least I'm talking about in my experience, even folks who have talked about like, seeing a light or, seeing other creatures and, whatever. That's not death though, because that's consciousness.
Right.
So I'm curious still about death, right? And as I'm growing older and...
You're still a young man, don't worry.
Still a young man, but so my parents have passed. I'm growing older. People that I went to school with are passing, or people that are younger than me have passed. And I'm curious about it, partly because of what it is in and of itself, but then I'm also curious about it in terms of its correlation to how I live and what living can mean.
But this is why I believe, you should, if you can maximize the time that you have, the things that you're doing, that is the ultimate most important thing, because you don't know what could happen. You hope nothing does, but things can, or the unexpected. And I don't know. I don't worry about it though. It's like, I think it's from one state of being to a different state of being. It's not something to be afraid of. It's just, it's a thing that happens.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I don't think it's something to be afraid of. I think that, people are rightly uncomfortable with being disconnected from each other.
I think the implications of a death, right? If someone dies, what does that mean to the people that continue? Right. That's a different question. Right. And there isn't a right answer to that. They have to figure that out. But again, my personal belief system says that if you've done all the things, you're trying to live a good life, you hope and believe that you've done everything that you can.
Yeah.
And if that was the time, that was the time. That's just how it, that's how it plays out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't see death as a bad ending.
No.
I think sometimes folks see it as unfortunate. And I don't think that is unfortunate.
The way I'll put it to you like this. So 2 things. A, cremate me, it's on record, right? Just do that. Yeah. My girlfriend's gonna be very unhappy about that. She's like, no. But also, it's not a funeral. It's a celebration of the life that you had. That is 100% the focus.
Yeah.
It's not about, this is bad. It's like, no, this person, Tehsuan did great things. He was publishing the Newark Times. He was running things in Newark. He's doing all this great stuff. That's what I hope you want to be remembered by. That's what I'm going to remember you by, right?
Yeah.
So focus on those positive things. It's not a bad thing. It can be a sad thing, but it should be a celebration of what that person has done.
I dig that. Cheers, man.
To you. Well, this is great. What are we doing next? Cooking show.
Definitely got to do a cooking show.
What am I cooking for you?
Oh, that's on you, man.
Ooh.
That's
I feel like have I told you about Yorkshire puddings?
You haven't told me about them, but I'm familiar.
You're familiar. Yeah, but okay. Well, I'll take care of that.
Okay.
Yorkshire pudding is one. The other one, which like family stuff we were known for.
Mm-hmm.
So a very English thing is like a Sunday roast.
Mm-hmm.
So like the history behind this is on a Sunday, a lot of people, you wouldn't have had the funds or the resources to have like meat Monday through Friday.
Right.
It's like different bits and pieces. So weekend is like, okay, this is the day we've saved up. We'll have the piece of meat,
Mm-hmm.
roast it in the oven, usually with some kind of vegetables or
Mm-hmm.
other stuff underneath it.
Yep.
So it could be chicken, it can be beef, it can be
Mm-hmm.
pork, it could be like whatever
Mm-hmm.
the things. But so Sunday, that's what we're known for,
Mm-hmm.
Sunday roast. But then my dad would make I'm completely drawing a blank now, an au jus,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like gravy made
Yeah.
of like all the bits and pieces that would for like
The drippings and all. Yeah.
but like cooked for like days. So I have them frozen because I do it like once every few months.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
And it's like
Okay.
it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So like the gravy for me is like that is the
dig that.
love.
Yep.
And then everything else is kind of like, yeah, we'll just put the gravy on it. It'll be
Yeah.
fine.
I dig it. Yeah, I look forward to it. It's gonna be dope. My guy.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.